Good day, everybody. My name is Gavin Lockyer. I'm the Managing Director of Arafura Resources, and thank you for taking the time to watch our one-to-one Mining Investment Americas presentation. Today, I'll take you through Arafura and our Nolans project, which, as you can see, or as you will see, is a world-class neodymium-praseodymium project that as you can see, is a world-class neodymium-praseodymium project that sits in Australia. We completed our feasibility study in February 2019. Neodymium and praseodymium are the key inputs for high-performance permanent magnets, or neodymium iron boron magnets, as many of you may know them by. And NdPr is a critical input for the manufacture of energy-efficient electric motors. These motors have significance, particularly as the world is moving towards more renewable energy and also e-mobility. You can see our capital structure on the left and the right in the charts, and obviously we're listed on the ASX under the code ARU and on the OTC as ARUFF. We have a long life asset. We've only drilled vertical depth about 200 meters, and that has given us about a 39-year life of mine. The deposit is enriched in both phosphate and NdPr, which are two particular rare earths, as I discussed, important for new wave energy technologies. And this has really placed the economics of the project in a really sound position, which I'll explain a bit later on. But the other important thing is too that this deposit is open at depth. So despite being a 39-year life of mine, which is already significant, we have the opportunity to be a long-term secure supplier of these critical minerals globally for a very, very long time. The DFS was completed in 2019, and you can see the results as reported there. Since then, we also undertook a drill program and some further metallurgical test work, which further enhanced the economics to give us a 39-year life of mine and an ultra low cost of production at $23.71 US a kilo of NdPr against a current spot price of about $48 US a kilo. And to be a low cost producer in a market which is dominated by one major supplier, i.e. China, is an extremely important thing. And we represent really the only shovel-ready Australian NdPr project that is ready to go. Some key facts are listed down the right-hand side there, but Australia is Arafura is domiciled 100% in the Northern Territory of Australia, and at that site we will mine and beneficiate and then we'll extract and separate the rare earths. So we go all the way from ore all the way through to oxides, which is not necessarily common in our industry, and it's important to recognize the differences. Many of you would be familiar with the Mountain Pass deposit in California that currently only mines and beneficiates in America, and then it must send its material offshore for processing because the intermediate processing steps no longer exist in the USA, and that's something that the President Trump and his government have been trying to rectify, along with governments around the world, which we'll touch on shortly. We will also produce not just an NdPr oxide, but also a SEG, samarium, europium, gadolinium, and heavy rare earth oxide, a cerium oxide, and a phosphoric acid product. But the major revenue driver for us is the NdPr oxide. Over the last year, we've done a lot of work on the project itself, getting it shovel ready, as we call it. We've completed the DFS, as I've alluded to. We have both a federal and local Northern Territory government environmental approvals secured. We've got our native title agreement executed with the traditional owners. We've got the mining license granted for a minimum of 25 years. As I said, we updated the ore reserves and the life of mine, and we continue with engagement of various consultants to further enhance the project. As you can see listed there, we've got KBR and WAVE also as our integrated project management team, which are basically our in-house engineering team to work on the next phase of engineering and development. But our key focus at the moment is around securing offtake and obviously project funding, which I'll talk a bit more about shortly. Just some recent events that COVID has really highlighted. You can see across the top there, the chevrons I mentioned earlier, the importance of being able to go downstream to at least an oxide level. Across the top, China is the only country in the world that through its Made in China 2025 strategy has actually completed the entire supply chain for an electric vehicle. So they can go from ore all the way through to an electric vehicle. No other country in the world has that manufacturing capacity, nor has it invested in that manufacturing capacity over recent times. And this has been highlighted through particularly when COVID hit earlier in this year, when a lot of the factories in China shut down and a lot of the automakers, particularly in Europe, could no longer get parts. So our target is to produce a rare earth oxide which can feed into a range of countries that aren't necessarily aligned with the Made in China 2025 strategy, and therefore it makes Nolans a critical resource for diversifying supply chains to prevent future disruption. And these are some of the global initiatives that are being announced by governments globally. And the most recent, of course, was US President Trump signing an executive order declaring a national rare earth supply chain emergency. And that was just a couple of weeks ago at the start of October. Australia has also responded. It's produced a prospectus of all of the critical minerals that Australia has, and these are some of the initiatives on the right-hand side that the Australian government has also put in place to try and attract investment into the sector, which has been lacking to date. Nolans is a strategic resource. When in production, we will aim to supply 5 to 10% of global demand for NdPr oxide, which is not insignificant. As I said, we're doing everything at site, which includes waste management, and it's fully costed as well. We have sound project economics, as I've described. We've got the phosphoric acid product, which places Nolans in a very unique position to compete with China on cost. Most other rare earth projects out there do not have byproduct credits, and therefore they're solely dependent on rare earth prices for their revenues. And we hope to that a big selling point for us is that we are providing supply source certainty outside of the Made in China 2025 strategy. These are some of our target markets for the offtake strategy. The offtake strategy is critical to our funding strategy. If we can get strategic customers on board, we expect that will then either attract strategic equity or ECA or expert credit agency financing. And you can see here some of the MOUs we have in place. Those MOUs in particular at the top are with tier 1 Chinese magnet manufacturers that have significant export markets, and they're concerned that under the current strategy within China that they may no longer be able to source raw materials for their customers, which predominantly feed outside of China, and that's why we're aligning with those. And you can see other parts of the world where we're also interested in, and we're also seeing the US now emerging as a potential offtake opportunity. But really, as I said, it's about aligning our offtake with our with the regions or the geographic regions in which manufacturing is strategic, and therefore hopefully we can attract the ECA funding. And this is our funding strategy. We have a significant capex requirement for the Nolans project. All rare earth projects have significant capital requirements, but the potential sources of funding include equity, debt, joint venture, and or project sell down if the right strategic investor came along. But we're really focused at the moment on things that we can control, and that is export credit agency, tapping into guarantees and debt that potentially could come from that. When you look at countries like Germany, where about 15% of the population is employed in the auto sector, if we can procure a long-term strategic supply agreement into Europe, then that could potentially unlock the government-backed direct loans and guarantees that might come with that. We're also exploring the opportunities with the Australian government and what opportunities might be able to come from there. We think that once we're also looking obviously and in discussions with commercial banks, but also equity participants, but everybody wants to be the last one in, and so we think that the most likely domino to fall first might be Offtake and ECAs, and that's where we're currently focusing most of our efforts. And why ECAs? Well, it's just repeating a little bit of what I've just said. Nolans is a strategic Australian-based asset, so we give low sovereign risk in a secure jurisdiction, and we've recently appointed a number of advisors both here in Australia and also into Europe to assist us with that debt process, and we hope to reap some benefits in the next few months, if not the first quarter of next year. And this is the overall targeted funding structure. We have an offtake with a customer that's a reputable organisation with a reasonable balance sheet that then provides us with an ECA loan or a guarantee from the ECA in that jurisdiction, which then gives the commercial banker a bit of confidence. The middle box there represents the Australian government, and then of course we have equity on the far right. Our current focus, we're prioritising our cash flow at the moment. We've got a reasonable cash balance, but how long COVID lasts for and how long markets remain volatile is uncertain. So we're currently balancing our work streams against our available cash. We've provided samples to customers for their technical assessment, and we announced a couple of weeks ago that all the feedback had been positive in relation to that. We're escalating our engagement with financiers and financial advisors, as I said, along with also working the Australian government and other governments around the world, including the US, to see how Arafura can assist in the critical minerals supply chain and security of that supply chain in the future. So subject to project financing, as I said, we're shovel ready. We've done pretty much all the regulatory approvals. We do have some front-end engineering, which we're holding off on starting until we get some more clarity around the funding program. But once we do have that, that's the estimated time frame to get into first production. Commissioning and ramp up is about a 30 to a 36 month process, and that's why, it's important that we feel that the markets act now to make sure that projects like Arafura are in production at a time when the world is expecting a global shortage of NdPr to come. So thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to meeting you through the one-to-one speed dating exercise. Thanks very much.